Pete, this was a wild week in your power rankings with the upsets. You had some teams going up 10 spots, some teams going down 10 spots. You got the 49ers #1. Let's start with the Eagles on Monday Night Football, making quick work of the Bucs. This looks like more like the team that they were last season on their way to a Super Bowl.
No doubt about it. And they still haven't clicked on offense, I don't think. I still don't think they're quite there. I even talked to somebody in the organization this week, and they didn't think that they clicked on
Well, they can
today.
quarterback sneak it.
They're the best in the league at quarterback sneaking it. And I think when you look at it, offensive line, dominant. Defensive line, dominant. If you're dominant on those two areas, you're going to be a good football team.
Look, the football is still one of the trenches, bottom line, to your point. And this is probably one of the most stacked rosters, though, too. I mean, even this past week, like, hey, A.J. Brown hasn't been involved as much in the passing game. Monday Night Football comes around, he has a big game. They start targeting, find him giving away the football more. By the way, the whole draft between the trading back, still getting Jalen Carter's had a huge impact as a rookie at the defensive tackle spot, and then finding your way into DeAndre Swift because you got a Detroit Lions team that got that pick, took Gibbs, had no more need for him. How's that benefiting the Eagles last night? You saw both those players showing out and showing up.
But the Lions could have kept Swift and not drafted Gibbs. I mean,
sure, they could have, but that's not the reality we're talking about right now, Pete. So I digress. The offense is where it needs to be. You were a little bit less bullish on them than I was this past week. That's why you took the Tampa Bay Bucks. I took the Eagles. That was a win, but it was more because of seeing the beginnings of this offense coming together. Look, you got offensive coordinator Brian Johnson with a little more time to have an identity of what this team does well, how to get everyone involved, that comfort with Jalen Hurts. They're there now. This is a team that's going to be playing probably in the NFC Championship game versus your #1 power ranked team.
I agree.
Even though it could be disputable this week, by the way.
All right, I want to talk about a team that might be playing in the AFC Championship game. We have the Dolphins. They're now in the top 5 after dropping 70 on Sean Payton and the Broncos.
Pete begrudgingly finally moved them into the top 5.
Did,
I was just going to say, so why not put them #1? It's your rankings. You can do whatever you want each week.
If they played the 49ers on a neutral field, the 49ers would beat them. If they played the Eagles on a neutral field, the Eagles would beat them. If they played Kansas City on a neutral field, the Chiefs would beat them.
Okay, then I guess they'll just keep the teams the rest of the season the way they are, and it doesn't matter what happens in actual games. The point I was going to make is he's a little bit upset because Danny Marino never scored 70 points in a game. And there's starting to be some people out there who are like,
80.
Hey, Tua's playing really well within the system, maybe giving a little Danny Marino a little run for his money. Pete doesn't like that.
Are you serious?
I'm just saying, a lot of Dolphins fans are excited about this.
First off, let's slow the roll. I mean, he's playing well. He's the MVP right now, by the way. Wow. I have a vote, and I would vote for Tua. I would vote for Tua right now. I would vote for Tua.
But he's not your #1 team.
No, he's not the #1 team.
He could have been this week. He chose not to.
No, he's not better than. They're not better than the 49ers. But he's playing great. Mike McDaniel's doing a great job of calling the offense. They can run the ball. The offensive line has been a major surprise. Still have a little concerns about the defense. They haven't been as good on that side of the ball. But Tua is the MVP right now.
Flip it off.
Now they go to Buffalo this week. We'll see.
Well, yeah, you've got them losing to the Niners, to the Eagles, to the Chiefs. Do you have them losing to the Bucs, too?
This is the same situation as a year ago. Everybody was raving about him as the MVP. He had the 3-game stretch. He went to San Francisco, the Chargers, and the Bills, and didn't play that well. So when you look at it, this is a proving game for Tua.
Did they beat the Bills, though, and then he got hurt that game?
The proving game for Tua this week.
Hate facts when they stand in the way of your little
proving game for Tua.
I mean, they're the lowest ranked undefeated team in your power rankings. It's a little disrespectful. They just dropped 70, all right? The Denver Broncos former ball boy just dropped 70 on the Broncos. It's a great story.
Yeah. The Broncos quit that game, too, by the way.
Got him ranked behind a team that has a loss, the Kansas City Chiefs. Let's move on to the Cowboys. This was also interesting to me because, just for reference, the Jags dropped 10 spots with their surprising loss to the Texans. You only dropped the Cowboys 4 spots after losing at Arizona. Why are you giving them a so-called mulligan on that one?
Because I think when you Jacksonville has lost 2 in a row. That's concerning. But more than that, when you look at the Cowboys, every team has one of those games every year where you go out.
Do they? Every team does? Every team?
Well, I mean, there aren't a lot of undefeated teams every year, are there, Brady?
I'm just saying, every team?
Most of the good teams, okay, have a game like that. You give them a credit for a mulligan. And they were out without 3 of their top offensive linemen. Didn't have Tyron Smith, didn't have Zach Martin, and didn't have the center. Right. Yeah. So, okay. So all of a sudden, 2 Hall of Famers probably and the starting center. And go ahead and go win a game. Well, they didn't win the game. So they were flat. They didn't play well. I give them a mulligan.
This is, though, going to bring up those doubters, the Dak doubters that are out there about.
There are.
hey, can he lead them ultimately to a Super Bowl? I mean, there's, the pick to end it obviously looked bad on tape. You kind of go back and watch what he was looking at. I can at least understand probably why he didn't see the dropper coming out underneath where he's trying to throw the football. The reality is, though, this offense hasn't really clicked that well the entire season. I mean, I understand the issues on the offensive line up front, but even going back, they're down to win versus the Giants. We talked about this. That was defensive-led. It wasn't their offense clicking on all cylinders. So there's a lot of questions that I think I've got about this Dallas Cowboys offense and really how good it can be with Mike McCarthy and now Brian Schottenheimer taking over as offense coordinator. And who do they got this week? They got the New England Patriots. And what is the rumors you're already hearing right now? Oh, well, Zeke Elliott's there, and they just signed Will Greer, and they're interrogating these guys, and they're going to know our signals. And it feels like they're almost building in an excuse for not having a great offensive performance unless they're just throwing out bulletin board material to then change a bunch of stuff up. So maybe the Patriots will pay attention to what they're saying, and really there'll be a lot of dummy calls and things of that nature.
By the way, the bingo card, he absolved the quarterback of blame on a terrible interception.
I didn't absolve
bingo card.
Their offense hasn't looked the way it needs to be
that
ranked as high as
you said, I could see why he threw the interception. If that guy didn't pick it off, the other two would have. It was a terrible decision.
Let's go to a quarterback who had a bounce-back week, and that's Deshaun Watson as we move into the 11 to 20 range here in Pete Prisco's power rankings. The Browns are up to number 12. They're up 5 spots. Pete, are they more like the team that we saw this week in the bounce-back victory against the Titans, or more like the team that lost to the Steelers?
I think they're more like this team. And look, their defense is dominant across the board. Brady and myself, we both thought they would be a playoff team this year.
I got one in 10 games.
And I still think they're going to be a playoff team. What we saw from Deshaun Watson the other day was actually a big improvement, and it's a good sign. It's not great yet, but it was a good sign moving forward. But that defense is downright nasty across the board. They're dominant defense. I love what I see from that defense.
Take a look at a happy Jim Schwartz. That's always good. You should be happy when you got Myles Garrett and obviously their edge rushers too and the way they've played up front. But the truth of the matter is this is a team that's led by their defense and right now a ground attack. Deshaun Watson is coming on. He's looking more comfortable, at least based on this past week, with the exception of I have no idea what he was trying to do when he was trying to throw it backwards, and that was just a disastrous play. I don't know. It doesn't matter. They won the game. We move on. But he's going to have to clean up some of those things. But they do have the right pieces in place between the talent on the outside, that offensive line, the ground attack, and the defense to make a run if they get to the playoffs. But he's got to clean a lot of things up with his play.
It was better, though.
It was better, but when you're throwing to Amari Cooper, who's got 10, 15 yards of a cushion, that's an easy play for anyone to make.
A team that's trending in the opposite direction. Chris, you mentioned it. They have fallen 10 spots in Pete's power rankings. The Jags.
Pete had him going 17-0.
I had him going to the Super Bowl.
It's a Super Bowl, yeah.
One seed in the AFC.
You had him winning the Super Bowl.
No, not winning. San Francisco.
Oh, okay.
I had him losing the Super Bowl.
I don't know if I remember that.
Pete, is this just a bad game, or are they in trouble?
Give your boys another mulligan. Come on.
Yeah, give them a mulligan, Pete.
They're in trouble. But the division's so bad that they're not in that much trouble.
Okay.
So if they were in a good division, they'd be in big trouble. The problem is a couple things. You saw Doug Peterson said they're reading the press clippings. That means they're not doing the stuff they're supposed to do. They think they're getting a little
reading
full
everything
themselves.
You're saying about them?
Getting a little too full of themselves. Well, I hope they didn't hear me last night on the radio show because I blistered them. I think the play calling responsibilities being given over to Press Taylor have changed the dynamic of the offense. Losing Jim Bob Cooter was big for them, too. I think that's important. When you look at the offensive line, the interior of the offensive line is struggling, so they're calling plays as if they can't protect them from the inside. He's missing, Trevor Lawrence is missing open shots down the field where he has opportunities and taking the quicker throw, which he didn't do at the end of last year. And defensively, they played an offense that had 4 backups on the offensive line, and they didn't get a sack. Not one. That guy came into the game as the most sacked quarterback in the league. There's all kinds of issues. Somebody was saying, oh, maybe they go to London and fix them to get away from everything. What are you getting away from? Don't fix them. Go play football at the same field in London.
The 2 biggest issues I saw this past week is their defense, and they really should have taken advantage of a weak offensive line. But the reality is, too, give Houston, D'Amico Ryans, and even C.J. Stroud a lot of credit for the way they've played. They've battled. I mean, you call them a feisty team. I would just say they're a young team that's building. Like, that's a team that's going to be able to build and put together enough pieces, maybe not this year, but a year from now, they'll be much more competitive, I think, moving forward. So divisional matchup, those always tend to be closer than people think.
And they beat them a bunch. They beat them a bunch of, like, 5 straight times now. They own them.
Yeah,
it's Jacksonville.
It just feels like it's almost kind of an odd matchup. Well, I guess there's not that home field advantage there in Jacksonville, is there?
Well, there wasn't.
People in the hot tub weren't making enough noise.
There wasn't by the time they left in the third quarter.
One have a home field advantage over there across the seas, though, although they have won over some fans across the seas because they've played over there so much. Next 2 games in England. All right, let's go to number 27. That's where we find the New York Jets. And they just made a move today, according to our Jonathan Jones. Pending a physical, they're bringing in Trevor Siemian. Their Super Bowl odds have not changed.
They should have just called him or Danny standing over there. It's the same thing. Trevor Siemian. I mean, are you serious? Go get a real quarterback. Go get a quarterback who, I mean, Matt Ryan didn't want to do it. They explored it. He doesn't want to do it. He said that yesterday on our air.
That means the price wasn't right. Let's be real about this. Matt Ryan, Carson Wentz, like, you offer them a lot of money, I'm sure they'd want to step in. This is a year lease. The problem with any veteran quarterback wanting to step into this, if you really want to be the guy and go play, is the fact that it's only for a year's time, right, or the rest of the season. And so you have to be comfortable with doing that, and this being your swan song and potentially the end of it. You can't build off of this because you have to go to another team next year. This is Rodgers' team in 2024, and you're just a Band-Aid for right now. It's a tough spot to be in for any quarterback stepping into it. What makes it feel a lot less tough if you're padded with a bunch of money. So
what's Carson Wentz building one right now? Nothing.
Exactly, and that's fine. But again, you're not going to put yourself in that position unless you feel like you're compensated well for that.
Well, but if you're Carson Wentz and they're offering you something to come play and you have an opportunity to go play for a team that might be a playoff contender, go play.
Yeah, the problem with that is if he goes in there and doesn't play well, that's it. He's already had a number of chances. That's it.
What's happening right now?
You go back to the economics of it, and you say, if they want to pay me a certain amount, yeah, I'll go into that situation and try to take it. Hold on. The offensive line play isn't great. He might not even know the system. So what you have right now is a quarterback that comes in. He's a formidable backup for them, if you will, and you let Zach Wilson play this thing out. There could be a thought in the front office, Pete, that maybe they don't mind losing a bunch of games this year. Maybe they don't mind getting a top draft pick because they still hold that first-round pick and then building forward 2024 if they feel like they're stuck in this spot.
Let me ask you this. So Carson Wentz going to play for the Jets isn't better for his career than sitting around doing nothing?
He might find another opportunity that fits him better right now.
Well, right now he has nothing. Zero.
And you can say that, but sometimes waiting to find a better opportunity.
He's playing the same amount of football in the NFL as I am this season. None.
Waiting to find a better opportunity sometimes is then stepping into a situation where you don't perform well. Trust me on that. I know you're new to this, the whole like guys playing in the NFL thing, but the reality is that's what can happen. You go to a bad situation, you play poorly, you're done. That's it.
So what situation is he going to?
He's going to wait for another situation where maybe a better opportunity.
This is a good situation. He's got a good defense. It's a great situation.
Look, their offensive line play has not been good.
No.
Okay? So it'd be hard to step behind that, especially if you don't know the offensive system. That's another hurdle to get over.
Yeah, I disagree with you. If Carson Wentz is getting the opportunity to go play, go play.
Go give him a little extra money then. Maybe he would.
Pete Prisco, Power Rankings. You can see the whole thing at CBSSports.com. Brady Quinn is going to stick around as we get to college football in just a minute.
Get out of here, Pete.
Hey, a huge game at 1 o'clock Eastern time this week on CBS. Josh Allen and the Bills kind of flying under the radar after that loss early in the season, but they've got the Dolphins coming into town after hanging 70 this past weekend.